Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Minister Loewen. I know you're on the road from all your Stampede appearances and getting back up to Valley View. You got a lot of work to do up there. An awesome looking backdrop with the hay bales in the background and in the heat. But I do want to talk, I guess, about something that made the news quite recently. Was that new program dealing with problematic wildlife, whether it's grizzly bears or elk? There's a lot of people confused on what's going on and thinking there's going to be a free for all in grizzly hunting or something like that. I guess could you explain a little on what this new initiative is?
Yeah, so basically what we're doing is we've developed a plan, and it's kind of a three-pronged plan to deal with problem wildlife. And right now we're focused on grizzly bears and elk because that's two of the biggest concerns that we're hearing from rural Albertans. And this three-pronged plan, it starts with educating the public, providing more opportunities to get the word out to people, and so that they can avoid those dangerous and costly negative human-wildlife interactions. So we're going to start with education. We're also going to be doing habitat enhancement, so that we have places for these wildlife to go, where they can flourish, where they have a less chance of having a negative interaction with people. And so that's the first two things. And then the last thing is having Albertans assigned as problem wildlife responders, so that they'll have the opportunity to respond to negative wildlife problems, and that'll help fish and wildlife officers deal with those problem animals.
Yeah, and euthanizing a bear, I mean, that's still a last resort. I mean, if there's other means to discourage a bear from being problematic, whether it's relocation or changing situations on the ranch or wherever it may be a problem, you're going to go through those first before you potentially outsource that to somebody to euthanize the animal.
Exactly. There's a matrix that fish and wildlife officers, conservation officers use when they have a problem wildlife, and that matrix will stay the same as it's been for decades. And so we've had fish and wildlife officers, conservation officers killing grizzlies ever since the hunt ended in 2006. And this is just an opportunity for Albertans to be involved to help with that process. And so fish and wildlife officers can spend their time doing other things, because it is timely. When you have a negative incidence, let's say a grizzly bear kills a bunch of cattle or something like that, the grizzly normally isn't just standing right there and the officer comes up and decides, okay, this bear is going to be put down. A lot of times the bear moves off, and then there has to be a bit of a tracking job or a locating job to solve that problem. But this way, Albertans can do that for the officers. And it's going to be tightly controlled. There's going to be a lot of conditions. They're not going to be just turned loose and be able to just do what they want. And that's why some people are calling this a hunt, and that's one of the reasons why it isn't a hunt, is because the responder isn't going to have a choice of when, where, or what to take care of. They will be told the conditions, and they'll be very specific.
Yeah, and something that's been less mentioned, but it's another part of it, is elk herds. And I think people don't necessarily realize. I live in Prentice, just south of Calgary, and actually we have some large elk herds down there that can cause a lot of damage, consume a lot of hay, rip out some bales for livestock producers down that way. And controlling, I guess, the mitigating is important down there. And your program is kind of allowing for a little bit of elk management as well.
Yes, exactly. And so it's the same program. It's kind of interesting. There's a lot of people lighting their hair on fire over this program, but they're only talking about grizzly bears, and not one of them is mentioning elk, because elk aren't fuzzy and cute, and they don't raise as much money talking about elk. But yes, elk do cause a lot of damage to crops in the millions of dollars per year. Some years as high as, I think, $13 million cost to agriculture producers, the damage that elk costs. So we want to make sure that again, just the same as it is with the grizzly bears, we're going to be focused on the problem animals. Traditionally, we've just let loose tags for elk across a wide area, but we want to make sure that we focus our attention and focus the harvest on the problem animals to make sure that we relieve some of those stresses that the agriculture producers are suffering from.
Yeah, so there would be regulations too. I mean, you use the term harvest. A person can't just shoot the elk just to reduce population. It's expected they're going to make use of the meat and products of that animal as well if they took it, right?
Yes, exactly. All those same regulations will apply for sure.
So in my area, again, where I live near the foothills, cougars actually are pretty common. They're rarely a problem, but they do cause, producers issues now and then. And they do get Fish and Wildlife take care of them, I guess you could say at times. But that's a different kind of hunt. Like, is there any consideration of expanding into that area, or would you leave that to Fish and Wildlife and the more specialized game control?
You know what? We may have to look at it for other species as well. And cougars is another animal their population is rising in certain areas and spreading into areas where they never have been before. And we know we've had problems where grizzlies have came into people's yards, killing dogs, killing livestock, and things like that. And so we want to make sure that we take care of them. We don't have them on this program at this point, but it's something we could look at in the future, because again, this is about focusing on the problem animals and not the overall populations.
Yeah, so do you have some general numbers, though, and how often does it get to the point when a grizzly becomes so problematic that it will need to be euthanized? I mean, I imagine the numbers shouldn't change terribly much, I guess. It's just you're changing the means on how it would be dealt with.
Yeah, exactly. Really, the only difference is who's pulling the trigger, and so there's no difference in again the matrix that's determined. When Fish and Wildlife or a conservation officer come to a scene where there's a problem grizzly bear, they'll use the same standard judging on what to do, whether it's going to be relocated or whether it's going to be put down or whatever, as they're using now and what they've been using for years.
So are we looking perhaps, though, at a couple of dozen a year, or a handful? Is there a baseline kind of number average?
Yeah, we put a limit at 15. And I actually doubt that we'll actually get there. I really doubt it. There's about 20 grizzlies plus a year that are being killed in negative human interactions. And we wanted to make sure we put this now.
Okay, so afraid, Minister Loewen is on his way back to Valley View. He was down in Calgary. There are forest fires and things he has to actually deal with up there. The problem was it's if people are watching, this is the day it's supposed to be, I believe, 34 degrees up that way. His phone overheated, apparently, so sending that much data when you're out in the sun. Look great with that in the background for this conversation, though. So that final point Minister Loewen put out, though, is we're looking at maybe a dozen bears a year. Alberta, the grizzly bear population is threatened, it's called, but it's not endangered. And with over 1,000 bears, dealing with a dozen problematic ones isn't going to threaten the population overall or anything like that. So these are the things we just needed to clarify in this program, which is I think a smart way to do it. We've seen news recently with some deer on an island in Vancouver where they outsourced it to some hunters from, I think, New Zealand and Australia, and they tried flying with helicopters to shoot them, and it cost something like $70,000 a deer. They barely got any of them, and they even shot the wrong type a few times. So, so many people lighting their hair on fire. There's so many people who are in automatic opposition of anything that's dealing with wildlife. They don't like to think about a bear being shot or things like that. This program is just a pragmatic, proactive sort of way to deal with the ones when they become problematic. It doesn't happen often, but if you're running a ranch or if you live rurally and you've got a bear that's become aggressive or dangerous, or if you've got elk that are reducing your bottom line because you can't keep your hay bales whole, something has to be done. So I appreciate Minister Loewen coming on to clarify that with us, and I just like seeing more common sense initiatives coming out of government. We don't see a heck of a lot of them happening very often. So perhaps the next time we talk to Mr. Loewen, we'll catch him when he's in an air-conditioned office so he can speak more at length and comfortably. But appreciate the time he gave us today. All right. Thanks for tuning in.